Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Good. Good. Okay, good. Let's maybe wait another minute or two. Uh, good. We'll see. I'm not sure if Rabbi Janino or Hakam or Rav Aaron are gonna join us tonight, but we'll see. Um, Tonight's parsha is very interesting, but I have mistakenly I think it's mistaken on the events page, and I've got to correct it. The events page I think is one ahead by accident. Tonight's parsha, if you didn't realize, is uh Bechukotai, okay? And that's Leviticus 26:3 through the end of Leviticus, all the way to the end. And it's a very interesting parsha. And I've discovered a couple of codes in it. So we're going to talk a little bit about codes, and we're going to talk a little bit tonight about Hebrew and these codes, things like that. Get set up for. Of course, if Rabbi Danino does join us tonight, I do have some theological questions for him, where I've reached my limit of my knowledge, and maybe we can have some exchange. He can tell me a little bit about his thoughts. Okay, so let's. I'll go ahead and say Baruch Atah Adonai Hamalamed Torah La'amo Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher B'Harabanu Mikol Hamim V'Natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. So, thanks for giving us the Torah. Yeehaw. All right. So we've said our blessings to start. And if you have that Stone edition, the Stone edition is again very good. It's a very good edition, and this is an interesting parsha because it starts off with a blessing and a curse, blessing and seven curses, a series of curses, a whole series of curses, actually. So, that's an interesting way to end a whole book, right? Leviticus. Let's go for a blessing and a series of curses, but it's a conditional blessing, really. It's a conditional blessing. It starts off, the words start off, if you follow my decrees, and you observe my commandments and perform them, then I will provide you with rain at the proper time. Okay, at the proper time. And the land will give its produce, and the tree of the field will give its fruit. Okay, so that's all right. So it's an if. That's what the Torah is telling you. If this, then you get that. Okay. And it also says your threshing will last until the vintage, and the vintage season will last until the sowing season, and the sowing season you'll you will eat bread and until you're totally satisfied, and you'll dwell with security in your land. All right, so let's sort of back that up and pick it apart. The first words are if you will follow my decrees, right? If you follow my decrees, and then and observe my commandments and perform them. So it's not enough you must follow the decrees, you must observe the commandments, and then you must actually do them. So the first part is that in order to do them, you have to learn them. And learning and doing are two separate things. So you can do the learning, the scholarly work, right? You can learn all about the Torah and what it says and what it means and who said what and the stories behind them. But it doesn't do you any good if you're not actually doing the work and putting it into action. And contrary, you can't be just doing the actions without putting any thought into them, understanding why you're doing what you're doing, because then you just can't have one without the other. And I believe there's a Kabbalistic concept. One is the wisdom of God, and the other is maybe the action of God. I can't remember what the other term is, but wisdom and the will. One is the wisdom of God. You must study the wisdom of God into studying the Torah, and you must put into practice the will of God and perform these commandments. Now, and if you do that, God says, well, I'm going to provide the right amount of rain in the right time, right? We don't want rain in the wrong time. That's no good. We don't want too much. We don't want too little. That's fine. We want just the right amount of rain. And then what's going to happen is that the tree of the field will give us its fruit. And some Kabbalist sages believe that this is a veiled reference to the time when the Moshiach will be upon us, the Messiah, because at that time, not just will the fruit trees bear fruit, but all trees will bear fruit. Even the trees that are not fruit-bearing trees will bear fruit. So it doesn't say, it just says here, the trees of the field. So it could be like an orchard, or it could be just a forest, right? All right. So, and then you're going to have each part of your year is going to be filled with that time. When there's threshing to do, you're just going to be throw so much threshing. You're going to thresh yourselves like threshing. When you need to be, making the wine, it's going to be so much wine. You're just going to have so much bounty. It's going to be like insanely crazy. And the first code that I want to point out is that the first three words in this text is im, which is aleph mem, im, okay, bechukotai, which is the name of the parsha, okay, and that starts with a bet, okay, and then telcho, okay, and that starts with the t. All right, and that aleph bet tav, that together means avat, and that is the base word for your word for ancestors or patriarchs. So it's not only if you follow in my decrees, but if you follow essentially in the footsteps of your patriarchs, right, of your ancestors, of the holy people, that the good, the good people that we've mentioned in the past. If you try to rise up to that level, that's that. And that's a code. That's a code. And the code is encoded in Hebrew, right? Because you're using Hebrew here. That code does not translate into English. So the second you translate the first series of words into English, you've lost the gematria. All right, you've lost it. It's gone. And so this is partly why the etymology of these words are so important, because rabbis have pontificated and thought about it and discussed it and written about it, these where these words come from and the meanings behind these words for 1,000 years or several thousand years. Okay, so the next thing, what happens? What happens? You'll dwell securely in your land, and I will provide peace in the land, and you will lie down with none to frighten you. And this is like when we do the Ma'ariv service, we have the Hashkivenu, which is now I lay me down to sleep, awaken me to the good life, keep me safe from ensnarement, right? This is this reference here that now I will lie down and nothing will frighten me. God says, I will cause wild beasts to withdraw from the land. I love this. He says, Chaya Ra'ah. Chaya Ra'ah is bad, and Chaya is animals, and Ra is bad. So the bad animals, the wild beasts, to withdraw from the land, and a sword will not cross your land. Meaning, no army officer, no soldier will even walk across the land. This is how peaceful and safe it's going to be. You're going to be able to leave your doors unlocked, right? This is 1950 America. Everything is, just like Leave It to Beaver, and no one will walk along your land. Now, this is where I got kind of hung up. Super interesting to me. It says, you will pursue your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. Okay? You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. That's what it says in the Stone Edition. This one that I'm reading from right now, which I consider to be an excellent edition. That's what it says if you look up, I think, in any of your traditional Christian editions. If you guys happen to have a King James, feel free to bust it out and tell me what it says. If you can, anybody. Okay, use the Oxford University Press. Which verse? Okay, the verse I'd like you to read is Leviticus 26, verse 7.
Okay, Leviticus 26, verse 7. And here we are. 26, verse 7. All right. It says, you shall give chase to your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword.
Yeah, you shall give chase. That's what it says. Okay, what's the other one say?
Okay, I have in fact read this 26:7. It says, and you shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword.
Look at that same thing, right? That doesn't surprise you at all, right? That's that's how most people translate it. That's
Yes,
actually how it's been translated for most everything. And like I said, even in the Stone edition here, it it uh, it translates it in that way. But allow me to tell you something. It says, "Uredaptem oyemebechem v'nepelu lechareb." Okay, lechareb. And it does mean you will pursue or chase after your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. But it does not reference whose sword. And if you are a native Hebrew speaker, okay, it is just as equally possible and plausible the interpretation is that the sword that they fall upon or kills them is their own sword. So the enemies being pursued will fall before the pursuers, either because they're defeated by their pursuers' swords or by their very own swords. Either one. And it doesn't specifically mention which one. And I will tell you that it is a very common theme in warfare for enemies to be defeated by their own weapons or weapons of their, by their own weapons, which suggests, of course, some sort of divine vengeance or righteous irony, a poetic justice. That's how I'll say it. That's what it is. It's a common reference of poetic justice. But then, so maybe it says that, maybe, okay. But then, all right. So you could kind of like, all right, let's put the pin in that. Let's read 8. 5 of you will pursue 100, and 100 of you will pursue 10,000. And your enemies will fall before you by the sword. Okay. That's what it says here in the Stone edition. Sneaky, yeah. That's what it says in the Stone edition. But the reality is, once again, that is a very similar phraseology, and again, it's if you know Hebrew, the verse is describing a scenario where a small number of people are pursuing a larger number of people, and the enemies will fall before the pursuers by the sword, but doesn't mention whose. And this can be interpreted as the enemies being defeated by their own weapons or the weapons of the pursuers. Once again, It's the same, it's the same phraseology. So again, left to wonder, right? We had two chances for clarification and it wasn't clarified. Okay. So it could be, I mean, that would be amazing. Now, another very interesting thing about this is that it's not that the numbers here are not scalable, right? I'm not typically scalable. They're not linear scalable. Let's just say that. They're not linear scalable. They're exponentially scalable. Why? What is the Torah telling us? And what do you mean by scalable? I mean to say that 5 can kill 100, right? 5 will pursue 100. So what's 5 pursuing 100? That's 5%. Okay, all right, that's 5%. 100 of you will pursue 10,000. No, that's not 5%. That's more. That's more. It's more than 5%. So if 100 of right, so 100 of you, I mean, it's less than 5%. It goes up exponential. So what is this referencing? This is the power of the minion. This is the power of the minion, right? When you do your magic with one person, awesome. 2 people, better. 3 people, we're going exponential now. 10 people, critical mass has been reached. Okay, now we're getting higher and higher. I mean, and so it's not linear, it's this way. It's exponential. Okay. So that's the meaning. That is the issue there. That I'd like to point out. And then let's see, let's go on. Gosh, God says, I'll turn my attention to you. I will make you fruitful and increase you, right? Fruitful and multiply. I will establish my covenant with you. Now he's referencing a new covenant, actually, not the prior covenant, because the prior covenant was broken by the Hebrew people when they're out in the desert and they make with the bowl and the business and the golden calf. So this is so we're going to have a new understanding, clarity, and we'll start anew. I would like to point out something. I'm going to leave you guys with something that I learned a little bit, which was quite shocking, about this prayer. Oh, darn it. I thought I had it pulled up here. Give me a moment, please. Yes, I do. Okay. Okay. Yes. All right. At the bottom again, we have this conditional blessing, right? If you do this, I'm going to provide peace. I'm going to provide life, and I'm going to start. If you have again the Stone edition, and you start at the last verse of the blessing. The blessing is 10 lines long, reflecting the 10 commandments and other 10 symbology. But the last part of the blessing is it starts here. I'm gonna show it to you. I don't know if you can see. My finger is like, can you see where my finger is? There's the 2 colons, there's the 2 dots there.
Honey.
What? I make it right. Yeah, it's right above my above my finger. You see the 2 dots? and
Yeah.
then it starts. Okay, so after that, it starts. All right, that's the last one, part of the blessing. And I want you to look at it now. You're gonna look very carefully. And I know that none of you know Hebrew. Well, maybe one or two of you. It's okay. I don't want to make that assumption. I should say many people here aren't fluent in, and that's okay. But if you know Hebrew, which I'm learning, I'm not so hot at it myself. You'll notice that this section contains every letter of the Hebrew alphabet, all 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, except for two. So it contains 20. It's missing two. It's missing the samech, and it's missing the pay. And this is a blessing. What is the Torah telling us? Why in this blessing is every single letter there? And remember, these letters, according to Sefer Yetzirah, are the foundation of Yetzirah, creation, right? Yetzirah is foundation of creation, right? So these 22 letters are magical. What are these two that are missing? Why are they missing? They're missing because Samech is missing because this is a blessing, and Samech has no business being in the blessing because Samech stands for Satan. Okay, so he has no business in this blessing. Okay, Satan is Samech Tav Nun. All right, and the other one that's missing is Pei. Pei has no business in this blessing because Af is anger, and anger has no business in this blessing. Now, if you think that this is entirely random and entirely by mistake and entirely circumstance, like these Jews are nuts. They're looking at their stuff and they're reading into it. The guy says, "My gosh, first three letters of this of the first three words turn out to mean ancestor," and he's going crazy. He's just drawing correlations where there are no correlations, and this is the essence of the movie Pi, where you just drive yourself nuts because you see correlations all over the place, especially with gematria. Well, if you think that this is just circumstances, let me tell you that there is a prayer, the V'yitin Lecha, which we say every weekend, every Friday, okay, not Friday, but at the conclusion of the Havdalah, after Shabbat, okay, in the Shabbat, this Havdalah ceremony. The prayer is 2 pages long. Two pages long, and it's a mishmash of all, and I'm going to show you the text. I'll show you the text. Here's the text. Here, let's see if I can. Here, okay, just to show you that it's not a short prayer, right? Okay, here it is in English and in Hebrew, right? Okay, and this is okay. This is page 1. Okay, so all right, that's page 1. All right, page 2 looks exactly the same density of words. This prayer that we say at the end of Havdalah has no samech or pay in the entire thing. Okay, just like every other. Okay, so there it is. There it is. This is not like, oh, people finding stuff. No. There's purpose to it. if you translate that into English, that's great. It's good for you. But these nuances, these mystical nuances, gone, because they don't translate. All right. I know it's only 5:30. We've hit you with some heavy concepts. And I kind of am less enthusiastic about the remaining curses. So he says, so I'll briefly touch on them, and we may end a little early again tonight, like we did last week. Okay, so it continues on, by the way, with the blessing. All right, which, by the way, you're going to eat the old grain first, and you're going to make way for the new grain. Like, you're gonna have so much grain that you're gonna have to eat, otherwise it's gonna go bad. Like, this is because it's gonna be coming. It's like gonna be drinking out of a fire hose. And you kind of, you got to put the old milk in the front, right, so that someone uses it. So that it's gonna be like there's gonna be grain everywhere. And you'll let's see, will place my sanctuary among you, and my spirit will not reject you. I will walk among you, I will be God unto you, and you will be a people unto me. We'll all be in love. This will be terrific. We'll be married. I am Hashem, your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, from being their slaves. I broke the staves of your yoke, and I led you erect, standing straight up with your head held up high. And then he goes on, but if you don't listen, you're in for 7 horrible things. Okay, and he's going to list the series of the 7 things, and what's going to happen. Okay, so it says, if you don't listen to me, and you will not perform all of these commandments, if you consider my decrees loathsome, and if your being rejects my ordinances so as to not perform all my commandments, so that you annul my covenant, then I'm going to do the same to you, and I will assign upon you panic, swelling lesions, burning fever, which will cause your eyes to long and souls to suffer, and you will sow your seeds in vain, and your enemies will eat all the food from whatever it is you've planted, and I will turn everybody against you, and it's gonna be hell to pay. Okay, and he goes on because this is, the parent chastising the child. So I have a few questions, and I wish that Rabbi Danino was here to guide me in some of my answer in finding some of the answers. First, let's talk about the first word, commandments. But if you will not listen to me and will not perform all of these commandments. So I just would like to say that there are several different words for commandments. Mitzvah is a commandment. Mishpatim. There are variations. And so the rabbis divided the commandments into sort of 3 types. There are the commandments that they have no rhyme or reason. God said you got to do it. Jumping jacks 300 times. I'm not going to tell you why. Sounds ridiculous. You're doing it. Okay, no rhyme or reason. Weird. Okay? All right, that's one. The second one is the commandments of testimony, becoming witness to things, and the way that you're doing that is by repeating what has come before, so that you too can become a witness to it in a testimony. So it's essentially like celebrating the holidays. Okay, so you become involved with Passover, and you understand that it's about the Exodus and the Egypt and leaving and oppression and da 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 da. And so it's a reminder to do all those things that you're supposed to do on Passover. Clean your house, do the thing, eat the shit, have a Seder plate, dip the vegetables, eat the, all of those things. Okay. They have a little bit of a reason to them. The reasons to them are our ancestral history. And then there's the third category, which is like the obvious. Don't steal. I mean, everybody can obviously agree upon if you have any bit of a moral code whatsoever, right? Don't cheat your neighbor. Don't strip your, wrong people, or, against, it's the obvious. It's the obvious one. And you can use different words for these things. And I'm going to tell you that the word here, my understanding of the word here that is chosen for the word commandment is the one that means more random. The more random, like the ones that you just don't even, you need to follow the ones that don't even make sense to you. So, and then this is where I think we're coming up on 5 40. It's almost 5:40. I think I'm gonna leave you all with your own thoughts about this particular concept. Okay, I'll give me one more second, and then I'll do that. I'll go to our sort of conclusion. I'm going to talk about so there are 7 big curses here, and the first series of punishments, and the second series, the third, fourth, fifth. Okay, and I just want to talk briefly about the pulsa denura, which is not included here, but it is kind of. So what is the pulsa denura? The pulsa denura is a Jewish curse, Kabbalistic curse, and it is a combination of every curse in the Bible befalls you, right, when the pulsa denura is performed upon you. So not just all these 7 things, but every single curse that is uttered in the Bible, and there's a lot of them, befalls the person that you curse with the pulsa denura. All right, so that's an interesting tidbit, and I'm going to move on to what I was going to talk about before, which was that he says, if you consider my decrees loathsome, and if your being rejects my covenant, then I will do the same to you. And I thought about it, and I looked up kind of a bunch of the decrees, to see whether or not I agree with it. And I got to, continued my reading here in preparation for Parsha. And I got up to Leviticus 27, right? Because we were on Leviticus 26, and we're like 3/4 of the way through it. I started reading, I got up to 27, and it says this business to me, which is Hashem. And this is for you guys to think about. It's the note that I'm going to ask you to think about and maybe come back and answer to me. Hashem speaks to Moses and says, speak to your children of Israel and say to them, if a man articulates a vow to Hashem regarding a valuation of a living being, the valuation of a male shall be for someone 20 years to 60 years of age. The valuation shall be 50 silver shekels of the sacred shekel. And if she's female, the valuation shall be 30 shekels. And if from 5 to 20 years of age, The valuation of a male shall be 20 shekels, and of a female, 10 shekels. And if from 1 month to 5 years of age, the valuation of a male shall be 5 silver shekels, and for a female, the valuation shall be 3 silver shekels. And from 60 and up, if a male, the valuation shall be 15 shekels, and for a female, 10 shekels. But if he's too poor for the valuation, then he should cause him to stand before the Kohen, and the Kohen should evaluate him according to what the person making the vow can afford, if the Kohen can evaluate. I find the entire discussion of the value in monetary terms of human life revolting and loathsome. And I have no problem saying that to Hashem. I leave you with your own thoughts. So we don't have book club following tonight. Not tonight. Okay. And we do not have Ma'ariv tomorrow night. So we will see you the following Tuesday for hopefully both book club and Parsha. But I'm going to, no, we have not picked a book yet, but I'm going to switch the times moving forward. We're going to do book club followed by Parsha. This way we have a greater chance of having Rabbi Danino, the benefit of Rabbi Danino, and Hakam Aaron, Rav Aaron with us. So we are thinking of the alphabet of Ben Sirah. Did you let them know? Mm-hmm. You did? You know, good? Okay, excellent. So it's a very short book, the alphabet of Ben Sirah. It's very funny. It talks about farting, which is hilarious. It talks about Lilith. And you know, it's and it talks, you know, about Ben Sirah, who was a really interesting, you know, child prodigy. So yeah, interesting. Thank you very much, everyone. If you have any questions, email me. And blessings to you all. Amen.